Hi, it's Danielle from Wendell Woodworks. It's February, so it's time to make some Valentines. This 3D envelope allows itself to display standing up, and it leaves space for you to stash your own handwritten Valentine inside. You can find the template below in the description and follow along. Let's start with the envelope. There are 3 layers to this envelope, so I'm going to begin by preparing a stack cut that will allow me to make 3 uniform cuts at once. You could certainly use a variety of materials, including plywood, but I'm going to be using 2 sheets of 1/4 inch MDF and 1 piece of 1/2 inch MDF in the middle. I've attached them with painter's tape and spray adhesive and have placed my envelope template on the top. If you have a miter saw or a cutoff saw, you may prefer to use it for the straight lines of the outside. For the rest of the cuts, I'll be using a number 5 modified geometry blade. Once the outline is cut, I'm going to remove the bottom layer that will serve as the bottom layer of the envelope. Next, I'll take the 1/2 inch MDF, line up the second template, and finish the cut that will make the middle of the envelope. Finally, I'll finish cutting the top layer using the template that will serve as the top of the envelope. Putting these layers aside, I will now cut the rose template on the 1/4 inch MDF. I've printed out an extra template to store the pieces as they're cut, just to help me keep them together. I also cut out a little optional heart to decorate the front of the envelope here. Once all the pieces are cut, I shape them individually using my Dremel sanding tools. It's a matter of preference and time how much or little that you shape them, but I like to make the front part of my petals thinner in the front to give it some extra depth and dimension. I also like to use an engraving tool to help with the leaf veins. If you don't have a Dremel, you can always simply round over the edges with sandpaper and use paint to create the lines or the veins that you want. Before painting, I'm going to go back to my envelope and start by sanding and then gluing all the 3 layers of the envelope together with wood glue. Once the glue is dry, I filled the gaps with dry decks to make the envelope look seamless from the sides. When that was dry, I sanded it again, and then it was ready to paint. To paint the envelope, I started by spraying off the dust, and then I sprayed it with a heavy spray primer to seal and to smooth the MDF. Then I gave it a light sanding, and I finished with a white spray paint. To paint my flower, I opted to hand paint instead of to spray paint. It's a personal preference, but I like the control of hand painting and the fact that it's much faster and easier to keep the pieces together. Because it's MDF, I still started with a primer, and then I painted with some sample paints that I had left over from another project. You can use whatever paint that you have available. Once all the paint is dry, I used my super glue to attach the pieces of the rose together first, and then glued the final piece to the back layer of the envelope. You may also want to paint the back of the leaves and the back of some of the petals where they will be visible from the back side of the envelope. Now that it's all together and dry, we have a sweet handmade Valentine that's just missing a keepsake note to go with it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give me a like and subscribe below to keep up with all the latest woodworking and scroll saw tutorials.